Hi, welcome to our presentation, Great Expectations, exploring how expectations influence successful transition to higher education and employment after high school. My name is Wendy Vance. I am joined today for this presentation by April Katine. You will see April on a later slide. Again, thank you for joining us. Disability Rights Florida has funding, responsibility, and authority under 9 federal programs to protect the rights of Floridians with disabilities. We are a not-for-profit corporation since 1987 and have been in existence since 1977. We are a statewide organization serving all communities in Florida. We have physical offices in Tallahassee, Tampa, Hollywood, and Gainesville, with satellite offices in several other communities. Our mission: Disability Rights Florida advocates, educates, investigates, and litigates to protect and advance the rights, dignity, equal opportunities, self-determination, and choices for all people with disabilities. Just as our yellow sunshine with his question marks and questioning eyes and scratching his head and chin, we know that you guys have questions about transition. So April and I are going to try and answer some of those questions for you today. The questions that will be answered are: what is transition? What post-high school options are available to my child? How can I help my child have a successful transition? And how do expectations impact transition outcomes? During this presentation, we are going to discuss a lot of terms. Some of them may be familiar to you, some of them may not. So to help you out, we have this list of terms and acronyms that we're going to be using during this presentation. IEP is an individualized education plan. A TIEP is a transition IEP plan. VR is short for Vocational Rehabilitation. WIOA is the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. IPE is an individualized plan for employment.
As you can see, this young man is overwhelmed at the thought of understanding transition. Hopefully, we can make this clearer as we go through this presentation. The law to require IEP teams to begin transition planning for students with disabilities by age 12 or 7th grade, whichever comes first, is set to go into effect beginning July 1st, 2021, pending the governor's approval once the legislation is presented to his office. Of course, you can always begin earlier if the IEP team agrees. IDA defines transition as a coordinated set of activities. This means coordination between home, school, and community agencies that may be required to provide services while the student is in school and beyond. It must be designed in a results-oriented manner. This means you have to plan with the end in mind. What does the student want to do when they graduate and ultimately do for employment? The plan must take into account both academic and functional needs of the student. It must facilitate the movement of the student from school to post-school activities and be based on the student's individual needs. It cannot only offer what the school has to offer. If a student needs something the school does not offer, the IEP team must work together to make sure the plan meets the student's needs. The plan must include not only instruction, but what related services, community experiences, and the development of employment skills the student needs. Daily living skills instruction must be included for students who need to learn these skills. All of the things in the student's transition plan should be based on assessments. If a functional vocational assessment has not been done, it should be requested. The school can complete this assessment, or the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation can provide this depending on the student's age. The Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, WIOA, went into effect on July 22, 2014. WIOA defines 5 required pre-employment transition services, often called pre-ETs, that must be made available to all students with disability enrolled in an educational agency. WIOA removed the eligibility determination requirements for students to access these pre-ET services. Students with disabilities can now receive these pre-ETs under a classification of potentially eligible. WIOA provides services to students with disabilities beginning at age 14. Students do not need to be clients of VR in order to receive these services. This also means youth with disabilities do not have to be receiving educational services to receive WIOA services. So students who are homeschooled or in private schools qualify too. They must only be eligible for receiving special education services. These services through WIOA can be provided through age 24. Let's talk about your diploma options. The first option is the standard 24 credit option that is available to all students. The second option is the regular 24 credit option, but this is only open to students with disabilities. So this is for students who are working on regular standards, but may substitute a career and technical education course with content related to English for English 4. May also substitute a CTE course with content related to math for 1 math credit. This cannot substitute for Algebra 1 or geometry. 1 CTE for science, except not biology, and 1 social studies credit, but not for U.S. history. Electives must include half a credit in an employment-based course, and the electives can include exceptional education courses. For the third option on this slide, students with the most significant cognitive disabilities can complete the courses using access courses. All of the same rules apply for this option as in choice number 2 above. However, they would be using access courses to meet the requirements. For the last 2 options, they only require 18 credit hours and are open to all students, including students with disabilities. The challenging curriculum to enhance learning options involves students who are taking advantage of honors, advanced placement, or international baccalaureate classes. PE nor the online course are required for this option. For the merit designation, you must meet all standard diploma requirements and attain 1 or more industry certifications from the list outlined in Florida Statute 1003.492. For a scholar designation, you must satisfy the regular high school credits and at least 1 credit in Algebra 2 or an equally rigorous course, pass the geometry end of course exam, earn 1 credit in statistics or equally rigorous course, pass biology 1's end of course exam, 1 credit in chemistry or physics, and 1 credit in a course equally rigorous to chemistry or physics. Pass the U.S. history end of course exam, earn 2 credits in the same world language, earn at least 1 credit in an AP, IB, AICE, or dual enrollment course. Let's talk about your option to defer your diploma. Please keep in mind by May 15th of the year your student is expected to graduate, you must declare whether your child will defer receipt of their diploma. Many school districts have 18 to 22-year-old programs for students with significant cognitive disabilities. For students who need services but don't have a significant cognitive disability, School districts must consider whether the student will be participating in one of the programs listed here. If a student still has a need and the school district does not have a program, the IEP team may need to create one or think outside of the box to meet the student's needs. You can find more information about all of these programs on the Project 10 website. Project 10's website is at http://project10.info/. Let's talk about options for life after high school. One option is higher education. So for students with disabilities who are going on to college or university, it is important to get to know your disability services offices on campus. Often, in order to receive accommodations on a college campus, you must have a recent, which means within 3 years, evaluation that shows you have a disability, and if you want accommodations, you must self-disclose to the Disability Services Office that you have a disability and how that disability impacts your learning. It is very helpful if you can advocate for yourself what accommodations you will need. There are also inclusive college programs in many parts of the state for students with cognitive disabilities. These programs provide post-secondary experiences to students with intellectual disabilities, allowing them to enroll in courses and study alongside same-age peers on a college campus. Again, you can find more information about those programs on the Project 10 website. Some students will go directly to employment after high school. It is important that students with disabilities are aware of vocational rehabilitation and how they can help you. VR can help with supports and services that lead to integrated employment, which can include supported employment. A word of caution about sheltered workshops. Sheltered workshops pay people with disabilities sub-minimum wages, provide limited access to health care benefits, includes large salary gaps between workers and management, are segregated from people without disabilities, and leave little to no opportunity for advancement. VR has the responsibility to find competitive employment for people with disabilities before supporting any placement in a sheltered workshop.
So now you know what transition is and that you have options after high school. But you may be asking yourself, well, how do I get there? What do I need to do to make a successful transition? You can look at transition kind of like going to a new place, with your goal on your transition IEP being your destination. So you are where you are in school now and you want to get here. What are all the things that you need to do to make that happen? This slide shows a road kind of like you might find on a Google Maps or something like that, with all these little point tacks along the way that show stops or places that are important. So today we are going to show you what is your roadmap to getting to your goal or your destination. We're going to give you the pinpoints on your Google map. Getting on the path. So how do you get from where you are right now to your goal or destination? There are several steps that you as a person with a disability can take to help make your transition successful. First, attend, meaning to attend your individualized education plan meeting with your parents. This allows you to have a seat at the table and to have your voice heard. You are able to speak to your IEP team about your goals, your interests, and let them know what it is you would like to do with your future. And if you're unclear about what you would like to do beyond high school, the team can assist you with coming up with a goal by doing transition vocational interest inventories and different other tests like that. So this allows you to work with someone so that a goal is decided with you instead of for you. Learn. Learn about your disability. How does your disability impact your abilities and supports that you need to help you succeed? In other words, what are the limitations that are put on you by your disability? What things are difficult to do or you just can't do? And then what things help you? Does extra time help you? Does the device help you? What kinds of things make it possible for you to do a task? Now, bear in mind that even with supports and accommodations, sometimes there are still things that you can't do, and that's okay. When you get into the world of work, sometimes those duties which are not essential, meaning they don't have to be done in order to accomplish this job, they can sometimes be given to other coworkers and as a modification to your job. But you first need to know the things that you can do, what you can't do, and what helps you to do tasks so that you can speak up for yourself and let others know what you need in order to fully participate. On the last slide, we discussed that there are a number of steps that you as a person with a disability can take to help make your transition successful. One of those steps was to attend your IEP meeting. Once you become a transition student, your IEP is called a Transition IEP or TIEP. Your Transition IEP must include a number of components. First, measurable post-secondary goals. These post-secondary goals have to be based on age-appropriate transition assessments, meaning that they have been approved to be given to your age group. So they couldn't give you a test that is for, say, a 5-year-old or for someone who is 30. It has to be in your age group, age appropriate for you. The goals have to be related to some very specific areas. Training, education, employment, and independent living where appropriate. Not everybody is going to need independent living training. Some people will, some people won't. It really just kind of depends on how you're functioning. You may be really great with independent living skills, such as dressing yourself and going to the bathroom by yourself and taking a bath and doing all of those things, preparing meals. But you may need some help with your academics, maybe your reading or math, have some deficits or things like that. Maybe you need to know more about employment or have employment experiences in the community in order to figure out what you want to do, what you like to do, what maybe you're good at doing, because we don't all necessarily know those things. And sometimes we have to be trained in how to do something before we know that we can or can't do it. Transition services need to be designed to help you reach your goals. So, if you want to be a carpenter, let's just say, it would not then make sense to put you into, say, an agriculture class or to have you take all these agriculture classes learning how to grow plants, because that is not your goal. Your goal is to be a carpenter. So it would make more sense if you were in woodshop classes and those kind of things and looking for resources on how to become a carpenter, or training programs after school. Those would be the kinds of things that you would be looking at in this instance. So those services have to be designed to help you get to your goals. So what is a measurable post-secondary goal? A measurable goal has a few components in it. First, it must use data that reflects the current academic achievement and functional performance of a student. Meaning, what are you able to do right now? Because what you're able to do right now impacts what we think you will need to do in the future. For example, let's say that you are a very distractible person and you are only able to concentrate or focus on a task for 10 minutes. So you can write for 10 minutes and then you get distracted or restless and you just can't do the task anymore. So you put your pencil down and you look at the butterflies or whatever you like to do. And so your attention is taken away from your task at hand. In order to do a job in the future, you need to be able to work for longer than 10 minutes at the time. So a team may say, all right, well, this data that we're looking at, which can be observations from a teacher, test grades, observations from a therapist, or tests that you do, like psychological tests or speech tests, or just a number of different assessment measures. It can come from observing you on an actual job site. So there are a number of pieces of information that can be used. Even observations about your behavior can be used as data that might tell us where you are. How do you behave in a certain situation? Because it can vary from place to place, can tell us different things. So first of all, you have to use this information that you gather. It has to be used by the team to know where you are so they can know where you need to go. It has to be written in a way that can be counted, observed, and documented. In other words, there needs to be a number associated with it, such as little Johnny will be able to put the widgets in the bucket 10 out of 10 times during 15 trials throughout the 9 weeks. You can measure that. You have 10 opportunities and you can do it 10 times. And then they're going to look at it on different days to make sure that it wasn't just a fluke. It wasn't just a chance that you put all the widgets in the bucket on this day and then they said, oh, well, you've mastered this. No, you have to show it over time. So it's a skill that they know that you have. It has to be targeted to address a student's unique needs. Every student is different and everyone is going to need something that is different. Little Johnny may need to increase his attention and ability to stay on task longer. Little Susie, on the other hand, may need to learn how to calculate math problems. So, and her issue has nothing to do with attention. It has to do with her understanding of math problems and how math principles work. So it's very different. So they have to be tailored to you. It wouldn't make sense to teach little Susie strategies for focus when that is not what is preventing her from getting to her goals. It's rather math that is preventing her from getting to her goals. And for little Johnny, it is his inability to focus that is causing him to have problems with his getting to his goals. So you see, each one needs to have things tailored to them so that they get to their unique goal. Even if little Johnny and little Susie want to do the same job, they still may have different things that are standing in their way of getting their different barriers. So their barriers have to be tackled in a different way. So the goal would be targeted to meet their unique needs. Again, that can be the goal you're trying to get to, that can be barriers that you have or limitations that you have, or accommodations and supports that you need in order to get there. Another step that you can take toward a successful transition was in the second thing that we talked about a couple of slides ago, and that was learn. In this particular case, I'm asking you to learn about yourself, to know yourself, starting with your disability. What is your disability? What is the name or label of your disability? Do you have autism? Do you have blindness? Do you have deafness? What is your disability? What is it called? What limits does it cause? What things does it affect? Are you able to lift your hands above your head or no? Are you able to see or no? Can you hear or not hear? Are you able to um, go to the bathroom by yourself? Maybe is that impacted, or do you need help to handle this task? All of these things are important to know. You need to know what these limits are, because in knowing what the limits are, you can also know what is available to help you to overcome that limit or to modify something to help you so that you can participate in school and community, employment, education, anything that you want to participate in. Which goes to the next line here. What helps you with these limits? What types of things? Does a wheelchair help you? Does a ramp help you? Does a hearing aid help you? Is it perhaps that you need a communication device or that you need to learn parts of language or about how people communicate with one another in a social setting? All of these things could be things that would help you, but you need to learn about that because then you can express to others, hey, this accommodation helps me, or no, this accommodation doesn't help me. You are the one that is going to know that. Yes, people can observe from the outside and they can say, oh, well, little Johnny seems to be doing better. But maybe inside, little Johnny is not doing better. Maybe the accommodation helps, but it makes little Johnny feel embarrassed, and so he doesn't like to use it. And so if an accommodation isn't used, then it's not useful. So you as the person with the disability can express, hey, this helps me, but I don't really like doing it this way. And is there something else maybe we can look at? You are the expert on you. Know yourself. What is your learning style? How do you learn best? Do you learn best when you hear information or see information or when you do something? Sometimes some people, they need to hear the information, and sometimes it's a combination of doing and hearing or seeing and doing. It just depends. Every person is different. and how you learn is not necessarily going to be the same way that the person next to you learns. And that's okay. But you also need to know what your learning style is. How do you learn best? Do you need somebody to just let you put your hands on the item and then you figure it out? Some people really need that. Hearing the lecture just isn't going to do it. It's not going to process. But if I can sit there and play with the Rubik's Cube, maybe I can put it all back together and line up all the colors just right. Or maybe I need to see you do it first. Or maybe I need you to give me instructions. It just depends. Know your interests. This is the way you're going to get to a goal that you are going to like. If you take a job just because it is a job and it has no interest to you, you are probably not going to stay there long, or you're going to be very miserable doing it. So you need to know what your interests are. What do you like to do? What do you like to read about? What do you like to watch on TV or talk about or think about? All of these things will help you to find an employment goal that is just perfect for you. If you like to read about say medical procedures and you really just think that that is the greatest thing, you would just love to work in the medical field and deal with medical terms all day, that's the thing you really like, you are not going to be happy if you wind up in a job watering plants at the hardware store like Lowe's or something, because plants don't interest you, but medical does. This is something important to know so that you can share it with the team. Because otherwise, the team might say, well, you know what? Little Johnny is incredible at math. He should go into a math job. That's just wonderful. That's what he should do because that's what he's good at. Meanwhile, you, little Johnny, do not like math. You just happen to be good at it. But what you really like is learning about bugs. You just love bugs and you just think that you would like to spend your whole life working with bugs in some type of way. Well, then you need to know that and be able to express that to the team so that they can help you find a goal that is going to match that interest. What type of lifestyle do you want to lead after high school? Do you want to live on your own and be independent? Well, how much money will you need to make in order to do that? How much money do you want to make? Maybe you like the starving artist lifestyle and you don't really feel like you need to make that much. Or maybe you really want to live like a princess, so you need to make a lot of money to make that happen. Where do you want to live? So again, are you perfectly content in a one-room apartment and painting all day because that's what you love doing? Or do you want to live in a 100-room mansion with servants? Well, then you need to think about that this is what I want. This is my goal to do these things so that you can then look at careers that will help you to get there. And think about other things. Do you want to have roommates? Do you want to live alone? Maybe you are tired of living with people. Because you have a little brother or sister that aggravates you all the time. So you think, you know what, I just want to live by myself. Well, again, that's going to take a different income level than someone who wants to live with roommates, because then you would share the expenses rather than all of the expenses being, about you. So do you want to have children? Do you not want to have children? All these things are things to think about for your future so that you can make a plan that helps you to get there. Be an effective, self-determined self-advocate. Ask questions such as when you need help to understand something, when you just need help with a task, when you need more information to make a decision. Ask questions. Share your dreams, goals, and interests and desires with the team. You are the expert on you. You can share with the team those things that you like, those things that you don't like, those things that you're interested in. This will help the team to help you decide on a goal if you don't already have one, or can help you decide on the way to get to your goal. What are the steps? What services do you need? Maybe what classes do you need? Those kind of things. But they will only know what your goals and interests are if you share that information with them, either telling them or showing them. But again, you are the expert on you. No one can go into your head and pull out this information, so you need to share it with them. Otherwise, people might say, oh, well, the data points to little Johnny being really great at math, so he should be a mathematician. And little Johnny really wants to be um, a, a rodeo cowboy, let's say, and you want to learn to ride bulls, and that's what you want to do. Well, then that's something that you need to share with the team, because if you're really great at math and that's what they think you should do, you might be bored to tears sitting in an office all day working with numbers, when what you really want to do is go and ride bulls for a living. So think about that, because sometimes, people are making choices for you because they think it's the best for you, but it may not appeal to you whatsoever. So be the voice, and tell people what your dreams and goals are. Being a self-determined self-advocate allows you to be empowered. You decide what happens in your life. Your life is defined by your choices, not by your disability, and not by others who make decisions for you or about you. Again, you are the one who knows what you like, what you want, and when you allow your voice to be spoken and heard, then you get to make your choices. What do you want to do for a living? Where do you want to live? Who do you want to share your life with? All of these are choices that you can make, and how you get to steer the ship of your life, instead of, letting someone else take the wheel and make those decisions for you. You may need help, and that is okay. It is completely okay to have someone help you make these decisions, but you retain control. You hold on to the steering wheel, and you get to be the gatekeeper of your rights. Meaning, people don't just get to violate you. You get to speak up and say, you violated my rights. I'm entitled to this, and, I am going to speak up and say something and assert my rights. And so again, you have to have knowledge about what your rights are, and that helps you to be a gatekeeper. Because if you don't know it's a right, then you don't necessarily know you have been violated. So be the gatekeeper of your rights, the guardian of yourself and your choices. As you have heard in the last few slides, getting to a successful transition takes a whole team. It takes you speaking up and speaking your mind. I found this quote while doing research for this presentation, and I really liked it. I felt like it summed up so much of what we are wanting to say to you. A truly successful transition process is the result of comprehensive team planning that is driven by the dreams, desires, and abilities of youth. A transition plan provides the basic structure for preparing an individual to live, work, and play in the community as fully and independently as possible. When you go to your IEP meeting, you are allowed to bring other people with you. So bring the village people to the party. And yes, I did intend for you to see in your head right now the police officer and the person with the Native American headdress and the construction worker and the other person um, in the group. They were all different. They came from different walks of life, different places, but they brought something to the party. And so you too can bring an extra element to the party, to the plan. There are other people and other professionals in your life that may have something valuable to say that can give the team additional information about you that's going to be valuable to help in getting to your goals and getting to those services that you need. Just because we talked about you being the decision maker, you steering your ship, that doesn't mean that you are going it alone. As I said, you can invite agency staff and other people who have knowledge about you, your needs, and your goals. This can be therapists, advocates, family members. They can be brought to the IEP meeting to help you, so that they can share information. Sometimes it's hard for us, some of us, to talk in front of a group, or sometimes we need somebody to help us express what we're trying to say in a way that other people understand us, or they might just have information that you don't know about that could help the group. So bring them along. Here are some agencies that you may want to have on your team. This is not all inclusive. There may be more, but these are just some examples, such as the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, the Division of Blind Services, or the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. So, speaking of agencies, what is vocational rehabilitation? VR is the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. Their mission is to help people with disabilities find and maintain employment and enhance their independence. They are available to provide support to high school students ages 14 to 21. VR should participate throughout the transition process, not just when the student is nearing graduation. Many times school staff will express that you can be referred to VR in your senior year or maybe your junior year, and unfortunately this is a misunderstanding. You can be referred to vocational rehabilitation to begin services as early as age 14, as it says, and the sooner you can get involved the better, and VR can be involved in the process like it says, from the very beginning, and they can offer the team some additional information. Sometimes they have access to certain evaluations that other agencies do not. they may be able to offer some additional services that other agencies cannot, including the schools. And so they're a valuable piece of the puzzle that helps you to start thinking about employment and learning about employment long before you graduate high school. VR can provide assistance after high school with job training, college and university training, job coaching, job placement, and so much more. DBS is the Division of Blind Services. They provide a similar array of employment supports and job placement assistance. Basically, they do the same things as vocational rehabilitation. The difference is that blind services serve people that have blindness as their primary disability. They may have other disabilities, but blindness is the thing basically that it kind of affects them the most or causes the most difficulties. So you could have a case with both vocational rehabilitation and Division of Blind Services at the same time if you have multiple disabilities. So the following are the transition services that are offered by VR and DBS. You can receive these services without becoming eligible for services, meaning you don't go through the eligibility process, or you can receive these services even if you become eligible for their adult programs, so long as you're in that age group. Guidance and counseling. Basically talking about what are your post-secondary options, talking to you about employment and what things you might be good at, what your interests might be, and here's some, maybe different options of what you could do with a certain degree or those kind of things. Basically, what are you going to do after high school? Are you going to go to college? Are you going to go to tech school? Maybe an internship, apprenticeship? All of these options will be discussed with you. Career guidance and counseling. Like I said, what do you want to do? What kind of job? What is your career goal? Work readiness training. There's a lot that goes into work that goes beyond the duties of the job. There are things called soft skills. Soft skills are things like knowing when to call in because you're going to be out, how to request leave, what does a resume look like, how do I dress for an interview, how do I prepare for an interview, do I have to disclose my disability, how do I interact with my coworkers, what is considered work appropriate dress. There's a lot of things, like I said, that go into a job that are beyond the job duties. They can offer you work experiences or what is called on-the-job training. Basically, you work with a job coach and you learn a job. Work experiences can last from 2 weeks up to several months, so that you learn a job, learn about a job, because sometimes, we decide what we want to do because we have seen other people around us doing it. We've had exposure to a certain job. Maybe you've been to the grocery store every Saturday with your mom for your whole life. So those are the jobs you have exposure to. The guy at the deli, the cashier, the bag boy, those kind of things. But maybe you haven't been a whole lot of other places, so you don't know about other jobs. So you can go do these work experiences and learn on site what this job looks like. Sometimes that helps you to say, yes, I really love this, or no, this is not what I thought it was at all, so I don't want to do this. So there's a lot of valuable information you can get there. Self-advocacy training. teaching you how to be that effective self-advocate, how to speak up for yourself and do it in the right way. VR and DBS services in the general program. This is what we also refer to as the adult program, but it is also a program that someone at age 14 can qualify for depending on what their needs are. So some of the services that can be offered are workplace accommodations, like, do you need a large screen or a software to read to you? Or do you need to be able to speak to the computer to make it do things? There's a software for that, and VR can provide these. Job placement, meaning they help you find a job. Job coaching, someone to help teach you the job and follow along with you to make sure that you're doing okay. On the job training. Supported employment, where they provide a job coach for a lot longer, several months, to make sure that everything is going okay. The job may also have some modifications to it. It may not be exactly like what your other coworkers are doing. And this will also involve you having some follow-along services later, so they'll connect you with another agency, or you're probably connected with another agency that is going to provide those follow-along services, because after you have met the requirements for being successfully employed, VR and DBS will close your case, so then you will receive those ongoing supported employment or job coaching services through another agency. Assistive technology devices. Do you need a communication device in order to speak with different people at your job or to be independent in the community? Do you need a vehicle modification, like a wheelchair lift or something like that, in order to be able to go to work? There's a lot of different assistive technology out there. Time-limited medical and psychological services or treatment. Sometimes we need to have certain things get better before we can go to work. So you need to get the medical and psychological treatments to get you stable. It doesn't necessarily mean that the disability or condition has gone away. It's just not changing. It's not so heavily impacting you. You have it under somewhat of a control. So that's what some of these services can do and help you with. Vocational training. This might be going to a vocational school or taking a specific apprenticeship so that you can learn a trade. Post-secondary education. This is college or university training. There's also inclusive higher education services available. That's it's a college and university type training that you leave with certificates and things, industry certificates, so that you can get a job. So those are all some possibilities. There are so much more. This is not necessarily a fully inclusive list. It just discusses some of the major things that VR and DBS can do for you to help you to become employed. The Agency for Persons with Disabilities. They serve people with developmental disabilities such as severe autism, cerebral palsy, intellectual disabilities, Down syndrome, Prader-Willi, Phelan-McDermid syndrome, spina bifida, And they also serve children ages 3 to 5 at high risk for developmental disability. And then the services that they provide are in the areas of social, medical, residential, behavioral, supported employment, and services that are based on individual need. So they can provide a lot of different things that you may need to live independently, such as a supported living coach, somebody who comes over and helps you make sure, that you're safe and that you have the things that you need. They might help you balance your budget, different things. They're just part of that adult team that helps you to live the life that you want to and live it independently. You might need a personal care attendant to help you with certain things like toileting or managing medical equipment or getting dressed. So that's also something that they can provide. They can provide job coaches for longer term services. So check out the Agency for Persons with Disabilities website. Register or apply for services as early as possible, because they do have a wait list that can be several years long. So the earlier you can apply, the better, so that this service may be available to you when you exit high school. So the sooner you can apply, like I said, the better. So we've been through all this stuff, and you're thinking to yourself, what do expectations have to do with any of this? You've given us all these tips on how to make a successful transition. So what do my expectations have to do with anything? And this slide shows a bunch of colorful question marks. So what are the impact of expectations? How is it that what you feel about yourself or what others feel about you or expect from you, how does this change whether or not you're successful? I mean, you're probably saying to yourself, Wendy, you and April gave us all these great tips and strategies and things that we can do to make our journey successful. The expectations don't have anything to do with it. That would not be correct. As much as all those other steps are super important to getting you to a successful place, your expectations that you put on yourself, the expectations that your teachers and your parents have for you, have a profound effect on whether or not you get to a successful conclusion. And I have resources at the back of this PowerPoint that you can look at some of these studies as well. But studies conducted in both 2005 and 2012 found that families who expected and communicated that their child would definitely be employed had 5 times greater odds of being employed after high school. So just merely by having the conversation and communicating to you that this is what I expect of you, this is what I think you can do, I expect that you are going to have this job and contribute, you have 5 times greater odds of getting employed over the person who didn't have this communicated to them. These same studies, the ones in 2005 and 2012, found that students whose families expressed that the student would eventually be self-supporting were 3 times more likely to be employed. So they not only said, I expect that you're going to be employed. I expect that this job that you're going to have is going to take care of you. You are going to be self-supporting. In other words, mom and dad are not going to be paying your rent or your light bill. You are going to be taking care of those things on your own. And so again, the mere fact that this was communicated, this was an expectation, just like I want you to clean your room is an expectation, load the dishwasher, doing your chores, those are expectations that your parents have. So because your parents communicated, or your teachers, those people that are important to you, communicated that I expect that you are going to take care of yourself one day, it increased that likelihood that people became employed, because they knew that those people around them that were important to them expected this from them. In 2014, researchers found that students whose family expected them to be employed, so this is another study, so we're building on it from 2005, 2012, and then another study comes along in 2014 and reinforces those previous findings. And these previous findings were mostly talking to families, like what the parents had observed. This one in 2014 also involved talking to not only the families but the students. So taking it even a step further and looking at expectations. So the researchers found that when families expected them to be employed, you had 58 times more likelihood to be employed 2 years after high school over those students whose families had not made this an expectation. And then 4 years after high school, you were 50% more likely to be employed after 4 years after high school. This is the second slide of the impact of expectations. So this is slide 2 of 2. In relation to college attendance, this is the same study from 2014, and I'm bad with names, so I'm probably going to mess this up, but Pape and Bambara found that students whose families expected them to be employed were 28 times more likely to be enrolled in college after 2 years after high school. And the same study group found to be 6 times more likely to report life satisfaction 2 to 4 years after high school. So not only are you increasing in how many people are employed, how many people are seeking that higher education, but you're increasing life satisfaction. And so in every area of life, things are being improved, and you're having greater ability to be educated and have a career when that expectation is given to you. When I say you don't have to succeed, then I don't have anything to work towards. But when you say, I expect you to succeed, I want you to go to that next level, then the human nature is to want to go to that next level. So the impact of what we speak into our young people's lives is invaluable. We can speak life and expectation, or not speak these things, and we reduce their likelihood. I'm not saying that it won't happen if you don't put these expectations, but if we say and communicate, I expect you to reach higher, the likelihood increases. And studies and research have proven that this is what happens when we ask for people to reach higher, they reach higher. And why is it that secondary education matters? Why does post-secondary education, college, why does this matter in all this? Why should we put that expectation on our kids, knowing that it can be stressful and difficult to get there? Why? Because the greater education you have, again, we increase that likelihood for employment. So not only do our expectations increase that likelihood for employment, having that education increases likelihood for employment because it makes available different jobs, some of which sometimes, make it easier to accommodate around a disability. Not always, but sometimes. So just looking at the statistics related to post-secondary education and employment, 11.1% of people with disabilities have less than a high school diploma. And of that group, 9.8% are employed. 16.9% of people with a disability have a high school diploma, and of that population, 15.6% are employed. 23.4% of people with a disability have some college or associate degree. They are 21, of that group, 21.8% are employed. 29.8% of individuals with a disability have an undergraduate degree. Of that group, 28.5% of individuals with a disability with a college degree are working. As you can see, each time you go up a level of education, you increase the percent of that population that is employed. And now you put that together with expectations and you just keep increasing that likelihood. You keep increasing the likelihood that we're going to have a person who is employed and participating in their community and living independently. And so then you have a person then who is taking full part in their community, which is basically, what every parent kind of wants when they welcome their little bundle into the world. This slide is references several of the studies, or all the studies that we referenced are here. This next slide is also references. It includes the Agency for Persons with Disabilities and another of the studies that was used. There's links on each of these slides that you can refer to. Please be sure to fill out our 2022 public input planning survey. This helps us to know what you are interested in us working on over the next year, helping us make plans. Please visit the survey between now, whenever you're watching this, and July 31st, 2021, and complete our annual public input planning survey. Your responses will help us plan for our goals, priorities, and objectives for 2022. And you can get that at www.disabilityrightsflorida.org/survey. And while you're at our website, also please check out some of our resources, our disability topics, and other videos. As I said, there's a wealth of information there to assist you. And we are Disability Rights Florida, located at 2473 Care Drive, Suite 200, Tallahassee, Florida 32308. Our contact numbers are 800-342-0823, and our TDD number is 800-346-4127. And again, our website is disabilityrightsflorida.org. We hope that you will join us there and enjoy the rest of your conference. Thank you.